The gunshot echoed through the quiet streets of Silver Creek as Darcy Addams pressed herself against the rough wooden wall of the post office, her heart racing. It wasn't the first time she'd heard gunfire in this dusty Montana town, but in 1876, a woman alone had to be cautious. Especially a woman like her, Darcy adjusted her walking cane and peered around the corner. Two men were arguing in front of the saloon, but neither had drawn weapons. The shot must have come from elsewhere. She sighed and continued her slow, laborious journey toward her small millinery shop at the edge of town. "Miss Addams," called Mrs. Peterson from the general store, "you shouldn't be out alone with that ruckus going on." Darcy forced a smile. "I've got orders to finish, Mrs. Peterson." "Hats don't make themselves." The older woman clucked her tongue. "Such a shame. A pretty face like yours and still unmarried at 24. If only that leg of yours—" "Good day, Mrs. Peterson," Darcy cut her off, continuing her walk with as much dignity as she could muster. The childhood fever that had left her with a permanently weakened right leg was the first thing people noticed about her. Not her skill with needle and thread, not her head for business, certainly not her heart. In Silver Creek, she was simply the crippled woman, an object of pity and occasionally scorn. As she reached her shop, she noticed a strange horse tied to the hitching post outside. A magnificent chestnut stallion with a white blaze down its nose stood patiently, its saddle worn but well-maintained. Inside her shop, a tall man was examining one of her finest creations, a lady's riding hat with a peacock feather tastefully arranged along the brim. His back was to her, broad shoulders stretching the fabric of his dark blue shirt. A gun belt hung low on his hips. "May I help you, sir?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He turned, and Darcy felt her breath catch. The stranger had the most startlingly blue eyes she'd ever seen, set in a sun-bronzed face beneath a shock of sandy hair. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow, giving him a perpetually questioning look. "Madam," he said, tipping his hat, "Owen Nash just rode into town." "Darcy Addams," she replied, moving behind her counter, using her cane more prominently than usual to make sure he noticed. Better to get the inevitable awkwardness over with quickly. "Are you looking for a hat, Mr. Nash?" "Not exactly." He set down the riding hat with surprising gentleness. "I hear you're the finest seamstress in 3 counties. I do some alterations, yes. I need new clothes. Got a job interview tomorrow with the Copper Creek Ranch." Darcy raised an eyebrow. "Copper Creek? Mr. Hollister doesn't hire just anyone." "I ain't just anyone," Owen said with a grin that transformed his face from merely handsome to devastating. "Been breaking horses since I was 14. 28 now, and never met a 4-legged beast I couldn't tame." "Well, Mr. Nash, I can certainly help with your clothing, but I'll need measurements." He nodded, standing still as she gathered her measuring tape. When she approached him, she noticed he didn't stare at her leg or offer unwanted assistance as she moved around him. Instead, he looked directly into her eyes, a small courtesy that few people extended to her. "What brings you to Silver Creek?" she asked, measuring his shoulders. "Looking for a fresh start. Been working ranches in Wyoming, but heard Montana's got opportunities for a man willing to work hard." "Arms out, please," she instructed. "Silver Creek has its charms, I suppose, though I've never been anywhere else." "Never?" he asked, holding still as she measured his arm length. "Born and raised here. After my parents died, I took over the shop." She didn't mention how the townspeople had placed bets on how long the poor crippled girl would last in business. 5 years later, she was still proving them wrong. "Must take courage," he said quietly. "Standing on your own in a town like this." Darcy looked up, startled by the understanding in his voice. Most men either pitied her or ignored her existence entirely. "It's necessity, not courage," she replied, stepping back. "I can have these ready by tomorrow morning if you'd like to come by before your interview." "Much obliged, Miss Addams." He placed a few coins on the counter, more than her usual fee. When she tried to return the excess, he shook his head. "Fair price for rush work." After he left, Darcy found herself thinking about those blue eyes long into the evening as she worked on his new shirt and vest. The next morning, Owen returned looking freshly shaved. "Morning, Miss Addams," he said, his voice warm. "Your clothes are ready, Mr. Nash." She handed him the bundle. "There's a screen in the back if you'd like to change." When he emerged a few minutes later, Darcy couldn't help but admire her handiwork and the man wearing it. The deep green vest complemented his coloring, and she'd taken extra care with the stitching on the white shirt. "How do I look?" he asked, turning slowly. "Like a man who knows horses," she replied honestly. "Mr. Hollister would be a fool not to hire you." "High praise," he smiled. "I was wondering if I might call on you this evening, to let you know how it went." Darcy hesitated. Was he mocking her? Men didn't call on women like her. "I close the shop at 6, she finally said. "I'll be here at 6:30 then." He tipped his hat and left before she could change her mind. The day crawled by. Twice Darcy pricked her finger while sewing, distracted by thoughts of Owen Nash. At 5 minutes past 6:30, she had convinced herself he wasn't coming, that it had been some cruel joke. Then the door opened, and there he stood, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Miss Addams," he said, stepping inside. "Hope I'm not too late." "Not at all," she replied, taking the flowers with trembling fingers. "How was your interview?" "Got the job." His smile was infectious. "Head wrangler at Copper Creek, start tomorrow." "Congratulations," she said, searching for a vase for the flowers. "That's a respected position." "Would you do me the honor of having dinner with me to celebrate?" Darcy froze. "Mr. Nash, Owen," he corrected. "And before you say no, I should warn you I'm mighty stubborn once I set my mind to something." "Why?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why what? Why me?" She gestured to her leg. "There are plenty of unmarried women in Silver Creek who don't come with complications." Owen's expression turned serious. "Miss Addams, Darcy, where I come from, a person's measured by their character, not their ability to dance a jig. You've built a business on your own, you've got talent I can see plain as day, and when you smile, it lights up your whole face." He paused. "Plus, you didn't laugh when I said I talked to horses." "You talk to horses." See, still not laughing. He offered his arm. Dinner, against her better judgment, Darcy locked her shop and took his arm. The next few weeks brought a whirlwind of change to Darcy's carefully ordered life. Owen called on her regularly, bringing small gifts, a ribbon, a book of poetry, once even a silver thimble he'd spotted in the general store. They took slow walks through town, Owen matching his pace to hers without comment. "People are talking," Darcy said one evening as they sat on the bench outside her shop. The summer twilight lingered, painting the town in soft gold. "Let them," Owen replied, his hand covering hers. "Does it bother you? I'm used to being talked about," she admitted. "But not like this." Mrs. Peterson asked if we were courting. "Aren't we?" Owen's eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "Are we?" Darcy looked down at their joined hands. "You've never said, I thought I was being clear." He lifted her hand to his lips. "Darcy Addams, I am most definitely courting you if you'll have me." Before she could respond, shouts erupted from the direction of the saloon. Owen tensed, his hand moving instinctively toward his gun. "Stay here," he said, rising. "Owen, please." She nodded, watching as he strode toward the commotion. A crowd had gathered around two men one she recognized as James Blackwell, the banker's son, known for his mean temper when drinking. From her position, Darcy couldn't hear what was said, but she saw Blackwell take a swing at Owen, who dodged it easily. When Blackwell pulled a knife, Owen disarmed him with a swift move that left the younger man sprawled in the dirt. "Time to go home, son," Owen said, loud enough for Darcy to hear. "Who do you think you are?" Blackwell slurred, struggling to his feet. "Coming into our town thinking you can take what's not yours." "Don't know what you're talking about," Owen replied evenly. "That crippled milliner," Blackwell spat. "Been trying to court her for months, but she's too high and mighty. Then you ride in and suddenly she's all smiles." Darcy felt her face flush with anger and embarrassment. James Blackwell had never shown the slightest interest in her beyond making crude jokes about her condition. "Watch your mouth," Owen warned, his voice dropping dangerously low. Or what? You'll fight me over damaged goods, Blackwell laughed. She's not worth it. Nobody wants the crippled woman. The crowd grew quiet. Darcy felt tears stinging her eyes, humiliation burning through her. She's mine, Owen said clearly, his voice carrying across the now silent street. And if I hear you speak of her like that again, you'll be the one needing a cane. He turned his back on Blackwell and walked straight to Darcy, offering his arm as if nothing had happened. Shall we continue our evening, Miss Addams? Stunned, Darcy took his arm and allowed him to escort her away from the watching crowd. You shouldn't have done that, she said when they were alone. Done what? Defended the woman I'm courting? Said I was yours. I don't belong to anyone, Owen. He stopped walking. You're right. Poor choice of words in the heat of the moment. What I should have said is that I'm yours if you'll have me. Owen, she whispered, do you know what you're getting into? Life with me won't be easy. I can't ride alongside you. I can't dance. I'll never be like other women. Thank God for that, he said fervently. I've known plenty of other women, Darcy. None of them compare to you. He leaned down and kissed her then, gently at first, then with increasing urgency as she responded. When they finally broke apart, Darcy felt dizzy with happiness. I love you, Darcy Addams, Owen said. Every part of you. I think I love you too, she admitted. Though it seems awfully fast, he laughed. When it's right, it's right. My pa proposed to my ma after knowing her 2 weeks. They were married 40 years until she passed. The weeks turned to months and summer faded into a glorious Montana autumn. Owen proved himself indispensable at Copper Creek, and Mr. Hollister himself commented that he'd never seen the horses so well managed. Darcy's business flourished too. As Owen's woman, she found herself receiving orders from ranchers' wives who had previously taken their business elsewhere. She hired a young girl, Emma, to help with the simpler tasks, allowing her to focus on the more intricate designs that were becoming her signature. Not everyone approved of their courtship. James Blackwell continued to make snide remarks when Owen wasn't around, and his father, the banker, suddenly recalled a loan made to Darcy's parents that he claimed remained unpaid. He's lying, Darcy told Owen one evening as they sat by the fire in her small parlor behind the shop. Papa was meticulous about money. He would never leave a debt unpaid. Blackwell's trying to pressure you, Owen agreed, his jaw tight with anger. $200 is a fortune. He knows you don't have it. I could sell the shop, Darcy said quietly. Start over somewhere else. No. Owen took her hands in his. This shop is your legacy. We'll find another way. The next day, Owen rode to neighboring towns, returning 3 days later with a leather pouch. What's this? Darcy asked as he placed it on her counter. $200, he said. Sold my stallion to a horse trader in Helena. Thunder, Darcy gasped. But you love that horse. I love you more, he said simply. Pay Blackwell, get a receipt, end this nonsense. Tears filled her eyes. I can't let you do this. Already done, he smiled. Besides, Mr. Hollister's prize mare is due to foal in the spring. He's promised me first pick of the colts as a bonus. Owen Nash, she said, her voice breaking. What did I do to deserve you? Must have been something terrible, he teased, pulling her close. Probably getting saddled with me is punishment for some awful sin. She laughed through her tears. Then I plan to be very wicked in my next life too. With Blackwell paid, life settled into a pleasant rhythm. Owen moved from the bunkhouse at Copper Creek to a small cabin closer to town, riding in to see Darcy nearly every evening. They often sat together planning their future, a home of their own, perhaps children someday. As Christmas approached, Silver Creek transformed. Evergreen boughs adorned doorways, and the church planned its annual Christmas Eve service. Darcy worked late into the night on a special gift for Owen, a winter coat lined with rabbit fur with intricate stitching along the collar. 3 days before Christmas, a blizzard blew in from the north. Owen had ridden to Copper Creek that morning to help secure the horses and hadn't returned by nightfall. Darcy stood at her window, watching the snow pile against the glass, trying not to imagine him lost in the white wilderness. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving 3 feet of snow blanketing the town. As soon as it was light, Darcy bundled up and made her way to the sheriff's office. "Any word from Copper Creek?" she asked Sheriff Miller. "Roads impassable, Miss Addams," he replied, sympathy in his weathered face. "Could be days before we hear anything." "I need to go there," she insisted. "Owen might be hurt." "Miss Addams," the sheriff said gently, "with your condition I can ride," she interrupted. "Not well, but I can stay on a horse." "No horse is getting through that drift at the north end of town," he said. "Best thing you can do is wait." Waiting was torture. Darcy tried to work but couldn't concentrate. By the second day, she was frantic. That evening, as darkness fell, she heard a commotion outside. Grabbing her shawl, she limped to the door. There in the street was Owen, leading a team of horses pulling an improvised snow plow logs lashed together to form a wedge. He was covered in snow, his face red with cold but grinning triumphantly. "Owen," she called, forgetting propriety as she hurried toward him. He jumped down from his horse and caught her in his arms, swinging her around despite her cane. "Didn't mean to worry you," he said, kissing her cold cheek. "Storm caught us by surprise." "I thought you might be frozen in a snowdrift somewhere," she admitted. "Takes more than a little snow to keep me from my girl." He set her gently on her feet. "Besides, I couldn't miss Christmas. Got something important planned." On Christmas Eve, the entire town gathered at the church. Candles glowed in the windows, and a massive pine tree stood at the front, decorated with paper stars and strings of cranberries. Owen sat beside Darcy, looking uncharacteristically nervous in his Sunday best. When the service ended, he remained seated as others began to file out. "Everything all right?" Darcy asked. "Perfect," he replied. "Just waiting for the crowd to thin a bit." When only a few people remained, Owen stood and helped Darcy to her feet. Then, to her astonishment, he lowered himself to one knee before her. "Owen, what are you doing?" she whispered, aware of the curious glances. "Something I should have done months ago." He took a small box from his pocket. "Darcy Addams, from the moment I walked into your shop, I knew you were special. You're the strongest, most determined woman I've ever known, and I love everything about you, your smile, your spirit, the way you furrow your brow when you're concentrating on a stitch." He opened the box, revealing a simple gold band with a small pearl. "Will you marry me?" The remaining churchgoers had fallen silent, watching. Darcy saw Mrs. Peterson dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. "Yes," Darcy said, her voice clear and steady. "Yes, I will marry you, Owen Nash." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, the church erupted in applause. Reverend Thomas stepped forward, beaming. "Shall we make it official now? No time like Christmas Eve for a wedding." Owen looked at Darcy questioningly. "It's your decision. We can wait if you want a proper ceremony." Darcy looked around at the candlelit church, at the smiling faces of townspeople who had finally begun to see her as more than her disability. At Owen, his blue eyes filled with love. "I don't want to wait another day," she said. And so, on Christmas Eve of 1876, Darcy Addams became Mrs. Owen Nash in a simple ceremony witnessed by most of Silver Creek. Even James Blackwell stood silently at the back, his expression unreadable. Afterward, they celebrated at the saloon, which had been decorated with pine boughs and ribbons. Mr. Hollister himself made an appearance, presenting the couple with a deed to 5 acres of land adjacent to Copper Creek. "For my head wrangler and his talented wife," he announced. "Build your home there, raise your family. Silver Creek needs good people like you too." Late that night, Owen carried Darcy across the threshold of her rooms behind the shop, their temporary home until spring, when they would begin building on their land. "Happy, Mrs. Nash?" he asked, setting her gently on the bed they would now share. "More than I ever thought possible," she admitted, drawing him down beside her. "I never believed anyone could love me this way." "Then I'll spend every day proving it to you," he promised, kissing her with a passion that left no doubt of his feelings. Spring brought new beginnings. Construction began on their home, a modest but sturdy 2-story house with wide doorways, and a gentle slope to the porch that Darcy could navigate easily. Owen insisted on a large sewing room with windows facing east to catch the morning light. Darcy continued her millinery business, but now traveled to Copper Creek once a week to tend to the clothing needs of the ranch hands. Her reputation spread, and orders came from as far away as Helena for her uniquely stylish creations. In late summer, as their home neared completion, Darcy discovered she was expecting their first child. Owen's joy knew no bounds, though he fretted constantly about her health and comfort. "The doctor says I'm perfectly capable of bearing children," she assured him. "The fever affected my leg, not my ability to be a mother." "I know," he said, his hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach. "But you can't blame a man for worrying about his treasures." Their son, Samuel, was born the following spring, a robust baby with his father's blue eyes and his mother's determination. By his first birthday, he was toddling around their home, his sturdy legs carrying him into mischief that kept both parents constantly vigilant. One afternoon, as Darcy sat on their porch watching Owen teach Samuel to pet the new foal, she reflected on how drastically her life had changed in 2 short years. From the lonely, crippled woman of Silver Creek to a wife, mother, and respected businesswoman, all because one man had looked past her limitations to see her worth. "What are you thinking about, looking so serious?" Owen asked, joining her on the porch with their son in his arms. "How lucky I am," she replied honestly. "How different my life might have been if you hadn't walked into my shop that day." "I'm the lucky one," he said, settling beside her with Samuel between them. "Found everything I never knew I was looking for in Silver Creek." "And to think," she mused, "it all started because you needed new clothes for a job interview." Owen grinned. "Actually, I had perfectly good clothes. I just needed an excuse to meet the beautiful milliner everyone in town was talking about." "What?" Darcy stared at him. "You never told me that." "Some things a man keeps to himself," he laughed. "Would you have believed me if I'd just walked in and said I'd fallen in love with you from afar?" "Probably not," she admitted. "I would have thought you were mocking me." "Never," he said softly. "From the first moment I saw you walking down the street, head high despite the whispers, I knew you were a woman worth knowing, worth loving." "Even with my limp, especially with your limp," he said firmly. "It's part of what made you so strong, so compassionate." "It's part of you, and I love every part of you," Darcy Nash. As the sun set over their little piece of Montana, casting long golden shadows across the land they now called home, Darcy rested her head on her husband's shoulder. Their son slept peacefully between them, and in the distance, horses grazed contentedly in pastures that stretched to the mountains. "I love you, Owen Nash," she whispered. "Thank you for claiming me when no one else would." "Thank you for claiming me right back," he replied, kissing her softly. "For giving me a family, a purpose, a home." In the years that followed, their family grew with the addition of twin daughters, Emily and Elizabeth. The Nash home became known throughout the territory for its warmth and hospitality. Darcy's millinery business expanded to include a dressmaking shop in Helena, run by her former assistant Emma, while Owen eventually became the manager of Copper Creek Ranch when Mr. Hollister retired. Their love story became something of a legend in Silver Creek, how a wandering cowboy had seen the true worth of a woman others had dismissed, how he declared, "She's mine," and changed both their lives forever. It was a reminder that love looks beyond limitations to the heart beneath, and that sometimes the greatest strengths are forged through overcoming life's greatest challenges. And on quiet evenings, when the children were asleep and the day's work was done, Owen and Darcy would sit on their porch, his arm around her shoulders, her head against his chest, watching the Montana sunset and marveling at the beautiful life they had built together, a life neither had dared to dream possible until love had shown them the way.